After I received my bachelor's degree and before earning my master's degree, I volunteered on a conservation project. This was my third experience volunteering on a project like this. After a few experiences, I discovered that this was my favorite thing to do on my summer break. I had even considered working for some of the organizations that I volunteered. I had volunteered in Costa Rica, Guatemala, Ecuador, and Peru. Costa Rica was my favorite place because I had family connections there. And when I was finished volunteering, I could be spoiled by my grandparents for a couple of weeks and just enjoy myself. I expected this trip to be excellent as well. I was volunteering on a biological survey project in Costa Rica, not far from Manzanillo, where my grandparents lived. It was a beautiful, quiet area with tons of wildlife and marine life. There was terrific surfing, along with all sorts of other things to do during free time. And of course, I was near enough that I could visit my grandparents, who were always happy to see me. I couldn't wait. When I arrived at the base, I met the other volunteers and found out that I was the only Spanish speaker there besides the director. I was used to that. At dinner, I found out that the other volunteers came from the US and England. There were 2 other guys and 4 girls. I also found out that I was the only biologist on the project. That was weird because it was a biology and conservation project. I was going to be staying in my tent, which was fine. I love camping in Costa Rica. I set up my gear, and by that time it was dinner. I was ready to go to sleep. It had been a long day. The next morning, I woke up at dawn and went to receive my instructions. I was hoping to do something that would contribute to my education, as I found that these projects usually did. The base director, Thomas, gave me some research to organize and document on the computer. I wondered what the other volunteers were doing. I didn't see them all day. I imagined they were out collecting data. Later, I saw the group heading through the gates of our site. They had been on the beach. Lucky. I couldn't wait for free time to go surfing. I quickly learned that the other volunteers did minimal work. The girls and one of the guys were newly out of high school. The other guy was a sophomore in college. At dinner, they chatted amongst themselves and with me. They didn't talk about the work that they had been doing. After dinner, they drank beers and shots. In the mornings, they did some documentation of work that the director had worked on the previous day. Then they went to the beach, or the town, or some other activity. I wondered why they were volunteering on such a project if not to contribute. The next day, they invited me to come to the beach with them. I asked about the work that we would be doing, and they said that it was our vacation, and once we did the job, we had the day to ourselves. That didn't seem right. In my previous experience on projects like this one, we volunteered to work. These folks appeared to be under the impression that they contributed to the project by paying. The girls didn't want to pay money to work. The guys seemed of the same mind. I had not experienced this before. Sure, on every project there was always someone who was a slacker, but those folks usually left early or learned to pitch in. This was an entire group of slackers. Maybe they didn't understand what the purpose of the project was. I thought that since I had more experience, I could serve as an example for them. The following morning, I woke up at dawn as usual. I checked in with Thomas to see what he wanted me to do. He handed me the research from the day before. When I finished with that, I asked him what else he wanted me to do. He seemed surprised. Thomas thanked me and asked me to switch out the memory cards from the camera traps and show me a map of their locations. Easy. I went about doing that. I checked in with Thomas again. He again looked surprised and smiled. Then he asked me to view the cards and document what I saw in them. This was more like it. No wonder I had so much work to do the first day. There was a lot to do for this project, and Thomas seemed to do almost all of it. At the end of the day, the other volunteers came back from the beach. They asked why hadn't I joined them. I explained that there was a lot of work to do here, and that is why I had volunteered instead of going on vacation. I also informed them that the purpose of conservation organizations having people volunteer was to help contribute to the mission of those organizations because they couldn't afford a lot of employees. Thomas seemed happy with that. He also appeared glad to have someone who wanted to work. What I said fell on deaf ears. Regarding the other volunteers, however, they really didn't seem to care. I was feeling frustrated and annoyed. I thought that they were disrespectful of Thomas and the organization. I checked my phone and saw that my sister Ernesto had sent me a message asking how things were going. Messaged her back explaining the situation and my frustration. She responded, "Remember my advice." What did that mean? She had given me a lot of advice over the years, which was funny because she was my younger sister, and she was almost always right. I messaged her back, ? Ernesto's next message said, "Take a break," followed by a, "You need you time." I got it. Ernesto was right. I need space. I asked Thomas if I could borrow his kayak. He said, of course, I could. He was just happy that someone on the project helped him out. I took the kayak out over the reef. It was a beautiful afternoon. The water was smooth, bad for surfers, but great for kayaking. It felt perfect to get away from the situation. I paddled and paddled until I could hardly see the shore and felt far away. It was only me, the water and the air. The only sound I heard was water and the occasional seabirds. The sun was going down, but it was still light enough to see in the clear water. I felt at peace. All of a sudden, something large and dark swam under my boat. Shark? I didn't think so, but still was a little unsettled. Looking down, I saw that it was a group of rays passing under me. I watched them gliding along and smiled. My frustration evaporated. I felt small in this big, beautiful world. It was not all about me. I stayed on the water for another hour before I went back to base. For the rest of the time on the project, I continued to work and help Thomas in any way that I could, and I took a great deal of me time. I became good friends with Thomas and have since returned to help him out. We even went surfing together sometimes. We are still friends. As far as the other volunteers, I interacted with them when I had to, at meals and so on, but I didn't preach to them. Instead, I focused on doing the best that I could. That was the lesson that I learned during that summer. I learned that I was only a small part of the world, and I learned that no matter what I think, that might not affect how others think, and to try not to let that bother me, because I was only one person. I cannot make other people do what I do. That is not my job. My job in this world is to do my best, and only my best. Hey, thank you for watching. Please click on the right to subscribe if you like the video. And please don't forget to click on the bell icon when you subscribe so that you can be notified when we upload a new video. Watch more videos on the left, including our playlist. Thank you.